Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a brand new week, a brand new sunny day. I'm so glad you could join, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching on the replay. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is your Daily Dev. I am your Daily Rev, and you are stuck with me for this week. And I want to look at this idea of outrage, okay, of just being outraged. And maybe even a little bit about cancel culture and a lot of the things that we're seeing manifesting right now. Over the last year, 18 months, if you wasn't already someone who was involved in social issues, if you wasn't someone who was already aware of what was going on in the news or in the press, over the last 18 months, 12 months for sure, with the pandemic, a lot of things have been able to rise to the surface. From, issues that have affected minority groups, right through to issues affecting women, and now I guess the latest outrage or the latest outcry is in the Asian community, and a lot of conversations are happening around hate crimes committed against our Asian brothers and sisters. And so throughout this period of time, regardless of the fact that these issues have potentially always been issues and have always been there, for some reason over the last 12 to 18 months, probably because we've all had more time to think and we've all had more time to take stock of the communities of which we are a part of, there has been a real outrage over these issues. And one of the sad things about that and the way in which one of the results of so much outrage at one time kind of coming at us all at one time, part of that can lead to a bit of exhaustion, a bit of fatigue. And for many people, they may find themselves at the point where they've simply had enough of the news and simply had enough of the outrage and simply had enough of the sheer volume and the constant headlines that again exemplify and demonstrate and show all of the ills in society, right? All of the injustices that are occurring right now. And so even today, as you get up to a brand new day and you open up an app on your phone or you check out a WhatsApp message or you look on your Facebook at the latest stories and what's going on, one thing's for sure, there are probably some headlines that again stir up some emotion in you, get you feeling maybe angry, maybe a sense of a strong feeling of injustice occurring. And this whole outrage, this kind of group community outrage has really risen to an unprecedented height at this time. And it can be quite difficult to know how to process all of this and how to deal with all of this, because I've spoken to a lot of people and some people think, well, I can't just go around being angry at everything, can I? Like, I can't go around addressing every issue that comes up, right? And so these type of conversations are happening, and sometimes, unfortunately, because of the sheer volume and because of the sheer amount of things to be outraged at, sometimes we can just choose to ignore all of it. And that is also unhelpful. But this really interesting story that I think we see in scripture, and a kind of thought and idea is very simple, that I see in scripture and I see through Jesus's behavior, the way in which he dealt with things. There's one point in his story, in his life, that I thought was very interesting. And this is when he hears of news that his cousin actually someone who has been a supporter of his, someone who actually has even contributed some of their own following, their own community to his cause. He finds out that this person has actually been murdered. The guy's name is John the Baptist. You might have heard of him. And John the Baptist was a man who was committed to the cause of Christ, really. He was paving the way in so many ways for what Jesus was about to do and for Jesus' coming, and he was telling people about it, and he had dedicated his life really, and his ministry was all about telling people about this man who was to come, which was in fact Jesus. And even, as I said, even when Jesus did begin his ministry, he even tells some of his own followers, right, to follow this guy. Like, this is the guy I've been talking to you about. And so the story goes, you can check it out in Matthew 14, that Jesus hears the news that his cousin, this guy, John the Baptist, has been murdered, right? He's been beheaded, just gruesome stuff. And the text says his response was, he hears the news. When Jesus heard the news, he goes off to a quiet place, a solitary place, to be alone, right? So he hears this devastating news, and probably the people around him were just outraged, just falling about themselves, just mad, angry, especially because in the story you see that actually there was some authorities involved in this murder, right? There was actually some powerful people, some powerful leaders who were involved in the murder of John the Baptist. It wasn't for any real reason other than a powerful person wanted to display their power. And so as a result of that, it ended up in the murder of this man. And so you can imagine there's outrage going on, right? Outrage, sheer anger, just everyone must just be fuming at what has just taken place. And Jesus' response is to take himself away to a place, to a solitary place, to be alone. And I think there's something key in there, as we try to process and we try to think about how do we respond to a lot of these things that are going on around us, right? What is our response? How do we deal with, how do we process all of these social injustices, all of these crazy things that we're hearing about at an ever increasing rate? How is it that we actually engage with it in a meaningful way? And I think one of the key lessons we can take, and one of the things I want to encourage us to do this Monday morning, is to find time to take yourself away. Because unfortunately, a lot of the time our initial reaction is to simply add fuel to the fire, is to contribute, sometimes in an uneducated way, sometimes in an unhelpful way, sometimes in a way that just causes the fire to keep building, rather than really, and really that's because we don't know how to engage with what it is that we're seeing. And so our outrage can sometimes play out in very unhelpful and even sometimes some ways that self-sabotage us. And so one of the key things I want to take, and one of the things I want to leave you with this Monday, is if you find yourself outraged at something that's going on, if you are either directly or indirectly affected by some of these issues that we are seeing around us, I want to encourage you to initially take a moment to just take yourself away. Find a solitary place. Find some moments of quiet. Find some moments where you're not distracted and you're not hearing all the other voices, and you're not constantly fueled and find yourself being more and more whipped up into a frenzy by what's going on. But actually, one of the key things you can do is simply take yourself away, find a quiet place where you will then be able to not only process what's going on, but maybe even formulate what your response will be, what your actions will be, what you want to say to that issue. I want to make it clear though that it's important to take that step, because everything and everyone else around you will want to tell you how you should respond. And everyone else and everyone around you will be influencing you, even if not directly, indirectly. And so your response may not be what you want it to be. And so today, find 5 minutes, find 10 minutes, maybe at the end of this video, maybe at lunchtime, maybe just before you go to bed, whatever it is, find a few moments to be alone and to process your outrage, so that the steps that you might take going forward will be measured, will be strategic, will be intentional, rather than simply reactionary. That's the Daily Dev for today. I wanna encourage you to have an amazing day. I hope you have an amazing day, and we'll see you again bright and early tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Share this with a friend. I'm your Daily Rev, and that was your Daily Dev.